Okay, so I was going to read A Game of Thrones, the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire, on audiobook, but unfortunately my cheapo MP3 player will not read the format of the file, so instead I've started listening to the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles, which is called A Wise Man's Fear. Now this is another reread for me, and basically I'm following straight on from the last book I read, The Name of the Wind, which is the first book in the series. And today I am on my way into, well, I've got to get to the train station. I'm going to Southampton because my football team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, has got a game today against Southampton. It's about the closest Premier League stadium to me apart from Bournemouth, so I don't get much chance to see them anymore really, but hopefully we'll get a victory today and I'll get through a bunch of my book on the way. So these flowers are like endangered now in basically the entire rest of the world. They used to be all over Europe, but as you can see, we get quite a lot of them around here. Okay, so Kingkiller Chronicles is a series that basically just asks a load of questions. It doesn't give you a lot of answers. It leaves you the space to work it out for yourself. And I think that Patrick Rothfuss is a smart writer. He leaves a lot of clues in the book as to the answers to some of these questions, but also you don't know how many of them are going to be red herrings. The third book in the series, which I think is going to be called Doors of Stone, has not been released yet, so a lot of these questions, the answers aren't out there. But and the third book, I don't know how long it's been since the second one was released, 7 or 8 years or something like that. So it's been a long old wait, like a Game of Thrones-esque wait for what is I think going to be the final book in the series. But yeah, so one big question, I guess, is there's this character called Denna, who is Kvothe's love interest, and her past is very mysterious. So in one sense, there's a question about, you know, what's her history. I don't think there's an awful lot of clues for that, not that I could see anyway. Maybe I'm just completely missing out on them. But one of the main questions about her character is who is her patron. She has this she's a musician, and musicians have patrons who support them, you know, financially, and also, you know, help them, give them a boost up their social ladder. But Denna's patron is very mysterious, and she won't reveal his name to Kvothe. She won't let him like meet him, anything like that. But we do get some clues as to who it might be, and I think initially in the first book I thought it was one of the Chandrian, who are like the main big magical bad guys who Kvothe is basically trying to kill. You know, Denna's patron is there when there's an attack on this farm, which has all the evidence of being an attack by the Chandrian. Also Kvothe, who we know is very good at giving names to things, he calls him Master Ash, which is very similar to Cinder, which is one of the names of the Chandrian. And we also are given the impression that Denna's patron is not a nice guy. You know, there's evidence of him beating her, which you know, she gives excuses for it, but it's not a nice thing, right? So yeah, potentially one of the Chandrian, and that is what I thought initially after reading The Name of the Wind. However, in A Wise Man's Fear, there's this character called Braden who Kvothe meets when he goes to the city of Severin, which is in one of the kingdoms, Vintus maybe, and he's this nobleman, and he fits the description. The only physical description I think that we've got of Denna's patron is that one of the, like Diok, the doorman at the bar that Quoth plays music at, he describes Denner as meeting a white-haired gentleman, and you know, again, that could mean one of the Chandrian, but also you got this guy, Breeden, and he's like an old guy, white hair. He is in this city, Severin, where for some reason, you know, Denner just happens to be. When he's away from the city, Denner is also away from the city. Also, you know, Master Ash, this name thing, right? It's his house colours are described as like grey and black, so you know, the colour of ash, so maybe that links to that. Also, there's this like magic tree that can tell the future called the Cathay that Quoth meets in the Fey realm, and the Cathay says that he talks about Denner's patron and says that he beats her with a walking stick, and Master Ash, sorry, not Master Ash, Breeden has a walking stick. So that's theory number 2, and this is kind of the theory now that I am most inclined to go with after rereading Wise Man's Fear. But that doesn't really answer a lot of questions, because we don't really know anything about Breeden, apart from he's just this old guy that befriends Quoth. So another theory that I've got is that Breeden maybe could be an Aemir, which is like, I don't know, it seems like they're this sort of holy order of knights and judges who go around, like who used to go around in the past. They don't exist anymore, they've been disbanded, but Quoth believes that they might still be around in secret. And this whole Master Ash thing, right, so the church in this book, their priests, their robes are grey, so you know, that may be another link to the whole Ash thing. So potentially Breeden is one of these Aemir working in secret, and it does seem that at the end of the Wise Man's Fear anyway, Quoth is talking to Mayor Alvaron, who is the ruler of this, or he's like one of the richest guys in Vintus. He's very powerful, and Alvaron seems to believe that the Aemir are still working in secret, potentially in Vintus, so maybe Breeden is one of them. But anyway, I don't know what implications that will have for the 3rd book whenever it comes out, but it's interesting to speculate. Okay, so one of the other theories about the Kingkiller Chronicles, and I'm not sure this is, well, this is one of the more unquestionable ones. There's a lot of evidence for this one, I think, is that Quoth is a member of the Lackless family. And now the Lackless family is important in the story because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, they're like super rich. And another reason is that they hold one of the big mysteries of the Kingkiller Chronicles. They've got a door that doesn't have a lock on it that no one can open. No one knows how to open. They've got a box that no one knows how to open. Nobody knows what's inside the box. Nobody knows what's behind the door. But clearly this is going to turn out to be, or I think anyway, clearly this is going to turn out to be very important. And the fact that the third book has got door in the title of it, I think backs that up. But anyway, so Kvothe is a Lackless. How can that be? Kvothe is an Edema Rue, right? Which they're like travelling performers, a culture of their own, and he's very proud of being a Edema Rue. But one of the things that Kvothe does in A Wise Man's Fear is he introduces Mayor Alvaron. Or doesn't introduce Mayor Alvaron, but he courts Meluan Lackless for Mayor Alvaron, right? And then when he meets Meluan Lackless, it turns out that she really hates the Edema Rue. This obviously gets Kvothe's back up, but the reason that she hates the Edema Rue is because her sister, she believes, was stolen by the Edema Rue. Now there are other rumours that say that she ran away with the Edema Rue, and we know that Kvothe's mother is a noblewoman who ran away with the Edema Rue. So is this noblewoman is Kvothe's mother Meluan's sister? Well, I think so, yeah. We know that Meluan's sister was called Natalia Lackless, and Kvothe's father, he writes this poem about his wife in which he calls her Tally as like a nickname. So Natalia, Tally, I think that adds up. Also, one thing I didn't notice when I was reading the physical books, but I did notice when I was listening to it on the audiobook, is that the last line of that poem actually sounds exactly like Natalia. Well, not exactly like, obviously, but it sounds like Natalia Lackless. I think the line is not Tally a lot less, but say that quickly, that's Natalia Lackless. So I think all these clues really add up to Kvothe being a member of this Lackless family. And now there's also another poem in the book, or a couple of poems maybe, where they list like 7 things that Lady Lackless has or something like that. But anyway, one of these things is that it sort of implies that to open this box or this door that the Lackless family have, you need a son with Lackless blood, which could mean that Kvothe is the guy that is going to open the door or the box, the Lackless door, the Lackless box, which would make sense because obviously he's the main protagonist of the story, so he's going to do some pretty cool stuff. It would be a bit weird if it was just some randomer, but anyway, Kvothe, a Lackless, I think so. Okay, so here's another question, and this is one that I definitely don't have the answer for, or I don't know, there's just so many possibilities, and that is, who is Ori? Now Ori is this girl at the university that Kvothe befriends, and she's a little bit, I don't know, she's not all there, she's away with the fairies, if you pardon the expression, and she lives in this place called the Underthing, which is a thing underneath the university, which seems like, that's another question, what is the Underthing, right? But yeah, so basically she lives in these like, I don't know, a combination of sewers and crypts and ruins underneath the university. And she's very timid to start with, but eventually Kvothe manages to befriend her and draw her out a little bit. But so one theory is, right, so Kvothe, he often talks about the kind of stories that he can tell to the chronicler. And one of the things that he says a couple of times is that he can tell him a story about how he rescued a princess. This comes up more than once. So, you know, one theory is that Ori is some kind of princess, right? The problem we've got with that is that none of the places where, none of the kingdoms or whatever in this world, it's not talked about them having a missing princess, apart from Natalia Lackless, who, you know, I believe is actually Kvothe's mother, so can't be Ori. Yeah, so Ori could be a princess. Yeah, maybe. Another theory is that she's a student, you know, and this is the most obvious one, is that she's a student from the university, that somehow she's been doing the magic and it has messed her up in the head. And this is something that seems to have happened to a lesser extent to Eladin, and obviously there's like the big, basically psychiatric asylum at the university, because this happens to a lot of students. And, you know, this does seem likely, but it seems like a bit of an easy option, and I think Ori seems like too much of an important character to have such a, you know, just to have such an easy backstory, if you see what I mean. Now, another option, and it's an option that I like, is that maybe she is a Fae princess. Also, by the way, just because she might be a university student, that doesn't discount the fact she could also be a princess who was at the university. Yeah, but another option is that she's a Fae. She could be a Fae princess, or not even a princess. Just she could be one of the Fae. You know, Kvothe calls her his moon Fae quite a lot. And we all know that Kvothe is good at naming things. He gave her name Ori, in fact, which Eladin, Master Namer, liked. So anyway, yeah, like I say, I don't really know who Ori is. She's one of my favourite characters, by the way, which is why I've put a little bit of thought into it, but I can't quite put my finger on where the clues that Patrick Rothfuss has put in the book are trying to lead us. But I noticed that there is a novella out based on Ori, I believe, called The Slow Regard of Silent Things, and I've not read that yet, so if I read that might give me a few more clues, so I think I will.